Councilmember Hank,
Here.
Councilmember Benson,
Here.
Councilmember Cramwood,
Here.
Councilmember Zerfing.
She called in saying she wasn't feeling well, but then called in and said she was, so I don't know if she's gonna be here or not. And if she's not, then she's excused.
Councilmember Masters,
Yes.
Council President Pruitt,
Yes,
and Mayor Fisher.
is excused. Amendments to the agenda. Tracy is going to give a presentation at the beginning of comments by the general public. Under new business, we need to add approve expenditure from electrical capital reserve of no more than $16,000 for number 2 primary conductor. I did a handout on that. And then we're also adding an executive session 1926602A, employment of public officers, employees, and agents. So, that being said, Tracy, you're up.
Thank you. You can read the memo there. We've got a couple little projects coming up. One of them has to do with the port there. I've got a little thing down the river I need to put some number 2 wire in also, but we don't have any. I've got about 400 feet, which doesn't near do what I need to do. And I don't want to buy one reel, because then anytime we pull off 3-phase, which 2 of these projects are, we've got to pull the wire out, roll it up, or lay it on the ground, and then pull it out, and then I've got these odd reels, so I'd like to buy 3 reels of it, and it would be, what we don't use for these projects will be there for future, so I'm not here doing this the next time.
Anybody got any questions?
So on the, when we did the bypass power down here on the interstate, that wire, you pulled that back down?
Yeah, we could use that wire, but it's like, it's way more capacity than what we need for the little jobs, so.
Oh, okay.
So why, and more expensive, so why use the more expensive wire when we would have it there for the next phase or something that we need for Ground River when we need that.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, we could use it, it would work, but it isn't really the right thing to do.
It's a different wire.
Yeah, it's a different
Okay.
size.
All right.
Number 2 is just smaller for a smaller load, and easier to handle and easier to get into, whereas most of those little long poles are straight. There's nothing else in there except vault after vault. Some of this is pretty, what we're gonna be doing out here by the sewer treatment plant is a little complicated for getting it in here and there and around, so.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Tracy. We'll vote on it later. Comments by the general public.
My name is Debbie Fine, and in your mailbox you would find a letter from me. I really don't want to read it out loud because there is some kind of sensitive things that I need to talk to the council and to the mayor about. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that this problem is going on, and I need some kind of an answer for it from everybody. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public?
Cascade office. First of all, about a month ago, many of us were in front of this council and spoke to the council about the budget and asked that it not be approved, and said there would be a certain set of things that would happen if the budget were approved. Took about 2 weeks for all of those to come true, right down to your insurance carrier slapping you with risk management deductible. Also, the potential loss of our mutual aid contract it was serious enough that barely over a week ago, this council believed there was such a pressing emergency, they felt it necessary to have 2 emergency meetings to address the issue of our fire and EMS coverage. Yet tonight I see that there's nothing on the agenda about resolving this problem. The mayor asserted that if the volunteers were responding, that our impending loss of mutual aid would just go away. That is not the case. In fact, I have a letter here. This letter is from Jim Trammell, and it reads, "This letter is to follow up to our interrupted conversation earlier this week regarding the mutual aid agreements between the City of Cascade Locks and other fire agencies in the county. I will not detail the terms of the agreement as they are self-explanatory. I'm sure you are familiar with the agreement by now. The county chiefs have directed me to inform you of the following. To rescind the termination of the mutual aid agreement, the chiefs need the following. A letter from the City of Cascade Locks stating that they recognize and support both a stable fire department in the city and a chief fire officer of the fire department. A letter from the chief fire officer stating that the fire department is operational on a 24/7 basis, can respond to all requests for service with adequate staffing, and can provide reciprocity concerning mutual aid. Once the county chiefs have received the above requested information, they will meet with the City of Cascade Locks chief fire officer to discuss the mutual aid agreement," and it's signed Jim Trammell. So, yet I see nothing on the agenda, and obviously, according to this letter, this is not just going to go away. Many of us realize that the only solution is right in front of you, but you deny the reality of it. You need to contract with our previous fire chief 10 hours a week on a contract basis to handle the admin. He submitted an application to be a volunteer paramedic, which I don't see that on the consent agenda. And I've heard from a couple of different sources that is the intention of this council not to approve his application. You really need to think long and hard about this, because this really is discriminatory, and he would have I think our lawyer could probably attest to the fact that he would have a very good discrimination suit, because he's highly qualified, has an exemplary employment record, has a resume about 100 pages long, and it was the assertion of this council that the problem was that with cutting his position was financial. He is now going to provide that same service largely as a donation. So I can't really see a logical reason why this is being potentially denied. It's time for this council to suck it up and do what you were elected to do by this city. And that's do what's in the best interest of this community, because we've got 3 weeks, fellows, until we lose our mutual aid agreement. Thank you.
A footnote to what you just said,
State name, please.
Tina Tarani, Cascade Locks. A footnote to that, for fire and EMS, volunteers are considered employees, is my understanding, and under a protected class for safety and health. What this council could be considered doing is opposition to safety and health, and that's a protected class. You've technically fired Jeff as a volunteer, and that's under that protected class, so he could probably have a suit against you. So you really do need to think about what you're doing. I would like to address the council. I have my own comments, and I do have a copy for you, Kathy, if you don't want to write it all down for later. This current council has made a complete mess of things, worse than any council before. I am tired of hearing the constant complaints about prior council like a broken record. Look at what this council has done. This is the issue. The actions of this council has caused this current serious mess. and it is a serious crisis. Stop trying to blame those before you. It's petty, childish, and non-productive. I didn't do it, he did it, or he hit me first. You, the new council, had a responsibility and you fell short, really short. You didn't fix things, you massacred them to where we hardly function at all, and where employees are either losing their jobs or worried about it. You have destroyed the morale with the employees, the volunteers, and the citizens. Your overly severe budget cuts crippled the fire and EMS department, and citizens are actually seriously worried for their safety and health. You have messed up. And what is scary is you don't think that you have, and you think that you are in the right. Hitler thought he was doing the right thing also, even to his last breath. He came in and started reorganizing the government and the people, and we all know how that turned out. People who destroy always think their actions are justified, and they aren't. Your actions are not justified. You have put the community's safety at serious risk, especially those with serious health problems and concerns. This state that this city is currently in shows you are not qualified to run this city. This council does not listen to the professionals hired to advise council. Why hire and pay them if you are only going to refute what they suggest? If you had listened to them, we might not be in this current mess. There were other alternatives to take that were made known to the council. You are beholden to the citizens. You have a moral obligation to do what is best for the citizens, for the city, not what is best for yourselves. And one last comment. I have noticed some individuals who support the search and destroy tactics of this current council who are publicly posting derogatory comments about private matters of other citizens' lives, which is in very poor taste and carries intent to harm those people's reputations. This is very mean-spirited and of a cruel nature. If I were a leader and turned to look at those following and supporting me and saw such individuals, that would give me cause for great concern. This council should take a real hard look at those following them.
Rock Rostov, Cascade Locks. Our fire and ambulance are in a volatile, dynamic situation, changing daily, if not by the hour. At this time, there are many unanswered questions that I'd like to ask, given the caveat that some might be out of date and irrelevant by the time I ask them, as I wasn't allowed to for the last couple sessions. First, do we currently have an operating fire and ambulance department, and who is running it? 2, I'm told Hood River is charging $1,500 per call taken for Cascade Locks. Is that correct? How many calls have occurred? Is that a fixed rate? Or can it vary due to circumstance? And what would the variables be that would cause changes in billing? Number 3, does Hood River EMS have an obligation to service Multnomah County for us? Number 4, does Multnomah County EMS have an obligation to service Hood River for us? 5, I've heard we were paid $20,000 by Multnomah County to cover I-84 down to Multnomah Falls. Is that correct? Has the check been cashed? Is it sitting in the office or has it been sent back? If it's been cashed, how do we meet our obligations to Multnomah County? If we don't fulfill them, can we be held liable by the county or anyone not receiving service in our service area in their county? 6, we have contracts with homeowners in Dotson, Warrendale. Can we fulfill them? If not, what are the contingencies? Can we be held liable if we don't fulfill those obligations? 7, the Forest Service was just here to discuss changes in coverage. Will they deal with structural fires that develop out of wildland fires in Cascade Locks? Will there be a cost to the homeowner, or is that recoverable from the city? 8, can the city be held responsible for any change in insurance rates if our ISO rating changes our insurance costs for a residence or business? 9, 2 of you have been proponents of an all-volunteer department. What do you know about obligations and accreditations for MOSHA, the state fire marshal? What do you know about equipment upkeep, date stamp medication, safety equipment, fire department process and procedure, and other rules and regulations for a fire department and ambulance service. What does the rest of the council know? Have any of you been to the fire hall to see what's there and find out about these obligations from the ex-chief or volunteers? Do you have someone in mind as a volunteer chief? If so, who? Ken, Chief Pritchard has been told to turn in his keys, codes, and passwords, and that he has a week to do so or face legal consequences. Is that correct? Who is going to accompany him on an inventory? Will there be a neutral citizen there to verify that everything went well and protect all parties? Someone we all feel will be a neutral party if someone can be found? 11. What will it take to restore our mutual aid contracts with the Oregon agencies, with the Washington agencies? When will this be accomplished? 12. When this council was seated at the beginning of the year, we had a fully functioning fire department and ambulance department. Citizens have been concerned and expressed those concerns at nearly every meeting. 7 months into your term, we had virtually no fire and ambulance. What went wrong? Do you feel any responsibility for this? And what will you do to make citizens and tourists, hikers, and truckers safe? 13. There is no shame in making a mistake or misunderstanding a situation. The shame comes in not dealing with the situation. Most of you have voted as a block in a way that created this problem for our city. I'm asking you to resign your positions before shame does come to you and you embarrass yourselves more. Will you please do so? Thank you. Kathy, here you are.
Debbie Fine, and I can answer how much it costs for the Hood River County to come and get you ambulance. It costs $1,680, and I haven't been billed from the city yet for the mileage from Wyeth to Cascade Locks, because they could only transport me to Wyeth, and there we sat until Hood River could get down. I'm not sure why I haven't got a bill from Cascade Locks, probably because there's nobody there to bill me. I really don't feel like I should have to pay it, since I had to sit there on the freeway and wait for Hood River. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
I wasn't sure when I should address you guys on some matters for the fire department, but if this is a good time, I'll do it. Myself and Megan Webb, Eva and George had a conversation last Wednesday in regards to fire department stuff. One of the topics we talked about is potentially being able to hire someone, a paramedic, mostly for to help us through these tough times that we're in currently. We don't feel that $19,000 is enough to hire anybody with, and I don't think you're gonna find that. We did look into the budget a little bit and came up with some contingency money that might be able to be used, but I don't know the process on that, if you guys have to vote on that to make that happen. But that could potentially give us about $32,000 in wages for an employee, which I still don't believe is enough. That just hires us a paramedic. So we've discussed this with the volunteers down at the station today and as well as throughout the week, trying to get people's input and ideas on what could we do with the potential use of $32,000 if that was the option. Because $19,000 isn't even an option. That's not even worth even looking at to do anything with. So $32,000, could you go out and hire a paramedic? Maybe. AMR right now is currently hiring EMT basics, which is the lowest level of emergency care you can get through an ambulance service. And they're paying their employees $32,000. So if I was a paramedic, I wouldn't probably come to work here. I'd probably be looking at someplace like EMR or somewhere else. So, you might be able to do that. I think it might be worth going out and trying to see if you can get an employee for that. But the thing that I wanna caution is that where would we be in a year from now? Because I think ultimately, the goal shouldn't be that we have a paramedic position, but that we would have a fire chief paramedic position, somebody to take care of all of the business. You need to have somebody down there to take care of the fire training, someone there to be the incident commander on scene. That person should be the most knowledgeable person in the department. They should have more training and experience than I do for firefighting, as well as the paramedic experience to do that job. $32,000 isn't gonna get that position. So if we hire somebody for the next year or 3 months or wherever we're at to come up with a budget solution for the fire department, where are we gonna be at with that employee? Because if anybody's thinking they're gonna come in here and take a job as a paramedic that doesn't have a lot of experience because they're willing to take a job, they gotta look at their future as well. And if there's no future within the fire department, why would they even apply for the job when they could go work for somewhere else for more money? I don't know. I think you could go out there and see what would bite on that. But where would we be at in a year? Because I think that the city really needs to consider going for a levy or something of that nature to help us through our financial problems. And if you were able to pass a levy in November, and we hired somebody today as a paramedic, where would we be when those funds kicked in? Because now you want the funds that position is holding to go along with whatever monies we got out of the levy. Does that position go away and we reclassify and hire as a paramedic because we want to go out and get the best for our money? I think that's what we want to do. I think we need to look at that today and see if we can somewhere squeeze blood out of that turnip somewhere to be able to afford the position that we need. I already know the comments about the budget and where we're at on that, and I've been around the block on it, okay? We need to look hard and deep to find the money to fund the position that we need, not the position that we can afford through the budget. We need to look past that and find ways to fund it, and that needs to happen, or I really don't know what we're gonna do. Something else that I was tasked with Megan and I were tasked with from the mayor was to come up with a grocery list of things that we might be able to ask our neighboring departments, what they might be able to help us with. Basically, we didn't come up with anything. We spoke to all the volunteers, we asked around, we're like, well, what can we ask for? What can we ask another neighboring department to come help us with? Well, the things that we need help with is probably things they're not gonna be willing to help us with. Billing, we need help with that. We need help with supply ordering, and we need help with somebody taking care of our maintenance for us and taking care of all these things. Maintenance is not one of those things that just any mechanic can come down there and do that, because they're emergency vehicles, they have to be certified and trained in emergency vehicles in order to do that. Otherwise, you have warranties on some of that equipment down there, you void all of it when you hire another mechanic who's not certified in emergency vehicles. So just some things to think about. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about this mutual aid agreement. I think there's some decisions that need to be made on that. I think that this letter needs to be addressed. I think it needs to be addressed right away, because we don't have a lot of time before our mutual aid agreement goes away, gets dissolved by the letter that was sent by Trammell, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. So we need to discuss that. As far as the chief officer is concerned, you kind of have that right now, and I don't want to blow anybody's thunder of what they're talking about back here as far as hiring somebody, because that needs to happen. I support that 100%. That needs to happen. In the short term, I think there's some solutions to that as far as having a chief officer, because you're looking at one. You have a chief officer who's been in the ranks in that department for years. So that can happen. The thing you need to address is the 24/7 coverage. I think there's some interpretation in that. I think we need to talk with Jim Trammell and find out exactly what they're talking about there for 27 coverage. Do we have a volunteer fire department? Yes, we do. Are we responding to calls? Yes, we are. Do we have 24-hour day, 7-day a week coverage? I think in a sense you do, except for it's dependent upon people's work schedules, people's personal schedules, and quite frankly, the fish run for me. So if the fish are biting, I'm going to be on the river. So you've got those things to consider if we're considering a 24/7 coverage on fire service. I think for the most part you do have that. I think they're just going to have some time when you're kind of thin. So however that works out, I think there's some conversations that need to happen with Trammell to find out if we meet what they're asking for there. I don't know how to address the fees that are coming from Hood River. I don't know how to address that with anybody. I don't know that if we call for mutual aid from Hood River, are we getting bills again? We just called for them 2 nights ago. So I don't know if we're going to receive a bill for that. I have no idea. I don't know what the deal is. Is there an agreement? Is there a contract? Is there anything to understand about that? I don't know. If we don't hire a paramedic, we're constantly going to be calling for Hood River. That's going to happen. So if they're going to bill you every time that we call for them, we have to call for them. If you're on the ground dying and I need a paramedic there, I have to call for them. So I don't know what to do about that. I don't know how to get around that problem without hiring somebody. So, and another thing I wanted, that I was asked to come ask you guys about was the previous application that was brought to you guys. Where we're at on that, is it going to be approved, not approved? Are we still working on that? And then I also have 2 more applications right here. The only problem that we have currently is I don't want to discourage people from becoming volunteers, because we need volunteers. We need more people to join up to be volunteers. But with people who don't have experience, we have to get them in training. Training doesn't happen all the time. We can't just take people and throw them into a training class the day that they join up to the department. We have to wait for those trainings to come up. February, every year in February is when the county does a county-wide training program for new volunteers. They give it at a fairly cheap rate, and they rotate amongst fire stations within the county. But that starts in February, takes about 3 months, I think, to get through that, and then you need about that much time of experience actually going on the road before you get certified. So it takes about 6 months before those people are actually able to be on their own by themselves doing firefighting jobs. So anybody who puts in an application today probably isn't going to be a working firefighter for a while. And that's just reality. That's just the way it is. So I really want to encourage people to continue to put in applications, but training doesn't start until February. But I can give these to you guys if you guys want to process an application. We have that here.
Are you willing to take some questions?
No, I just wanted to thank your crew for the work you did all night last night on the freeway. And also, I understand you had a kind of a bad call at the KO8 this weekend. I wanted to thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, some guys spent some long hours yesterday out on the freeway. I personally wasn't one of them, but there were some guys that spent some long hours out there. And we did have a call at the KOA, but I think if anybody could know the circumstances there, you ought to be very proud of the people that responded to that call at the KOA, because potentially there was a life saved there.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Thank you.
I think you've already spoken.
Excuse me?
I think you've already spoken.
Yes, I'm aware of that,
Did you want to talk on a different issue?
somewhat.
Excuse me. I'm presiding over the meeting.
So we're saying no.
I'm just helping you with the rules. We're talking about a different issue, it's okay.
5 minutes. First of all,
Yeah, 5 minutes is
my
enough.
son was one of the people that responded last night. Also, that incident, currently we don't have a mechanism for billing. That would have been a major revenue generator. That was a couple $100,000 worth of accident. Could have easily generated $10,000 to $15,000 of revenue for our department last night. Instead, it was an expense. And we have now billed, 56,000 is what we projected for revenues for this fiscal year for the fire department. To date, this month, we're a month into our fiscal year, and we've billed zero. I'm not thinking that we're going to hit our $56,000 of projected revenue, as we said, because we have no mechanism currently for billing, and we have no way. The main way that we do billing is through our paramedic, which we also do not have. And as our chief stated, we have no revenue, and we have no funds in order to hire a paramedic. And it sounds like he was saying that what we're looking for is exactly what we just lost, a fire chief paramedic who was highly qualified. Thank you.
Any more public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to discussion of, or declaration of potential conflict of interest. Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of July 7th, 2011 special council meeting. Approval of the minutes of July 11th, 2011 council meeting. Ratification of the bills in the amount of $180,236.55. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda in its entirety.
Second it.
It's been moved by Kevin Benson, seconded by Don Haight. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And I'm gonna apologize because there are no memos in this, there just wasn't time. The mayor was going on vacation, so pretty much the information's in the packet the way it is. So we have no unfinished business. New business is approval of resolution 1220, authorizing application for the 2011 special city allotment grant from ODOT for Regulator Street.
I would move to approve resolution number 1220, authorizing the application for the 2011 special city allotment grant from ODOT for Regulator Street.
Second.
It's been moved by Kevin Benson, seconded by Tom Cramlett. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The approval for the Sonnet contract, I don't think that there was really a need for an approval because it's under the city administrator's spending limit. I think it was mostly just, did anybody have any questions on it?
I would move to approve the sign that contract for $2,500. You might as well
Okay.
do the formality and be done with it.
Second.
It's been moved by Kevin Benson, seconded by Lance Masters. Any discussion?
I'd just like to say this is a pretty important step in stabilizing the cable TV / broadband system in Cascade Locks. I was in a meeting with the gentleman that runs SawNet, and this is going to be the basically the scoping part of it, going out, measuring the poles, figuring out what the entire project's going to cost. My impression of our conversation with him was around $70,000 to $75,000 for the entire system, and that there's some possibilities currently out there for additional revenue if we do have this from other entities. So I think the sooner we get this step done, the better off we're going to be.
Lance?
Well, I agree with Kevin on that. I also think it's important that we continue to have discussions about this project and what our plan is for funding it. There have been a couple of options that have been presented within the last year for funding it, but no decision has been made. And I think it's important that we continue the discussion once we get this report back.
Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have a discussion on ballot initiative for rate increase pass-throughs for utilities on special election, and I've since been informed that we can't do that on the special election. But I wonder if it's something that we would consider contemplating. We've had discussions several times about the HBO cost increase and utility rate increases and not being able to pass them on because of the costs. So and also I don't know if maybe we should throw in an initiative for the funding the fire department. I don't know. What is council's ideas?
It should be looked into.
Well, I don't know the whole thing to it, the legalities of it, but I know there was a question of whether we had to go out to a ballot if on the utility, on power anyway, of going up. Is that the question on this, is the
Yeah, I
cost of
don't
power,
know.
or is it utility, or is it sewer, water, or what?
Yes.
Well, the problem here is that there's just basically a blanket prohibition on raising taxes without some sort of voter initiative written right into the charter. So whether it's for utilities or not, it's fairly general and so therefore generally applicable to utilities. And at this point, it would have to go out to ballot.
So there was a question whether power though, it's not a bill that the city is getting, and all we're doing is keeping up with, and only in the power side, the cost of power coming to us and being able to pass on that cost on, not adding to that cost, only that cost on.
Well, and I'm happy to look at it again, but my understanding after reading the charter is that you can't do it. You can't do it as a pass-through. That's how it should be changed, though, in order to reflect that. And that if your costs go up on one end, then it's proportionally increased on the user's end. But I don't see that in the city charter right now. Now, I can take a look at it with that specific utility in mind, but for the cable, that's the way I saw it.
Kevin?
Yeah, I'm not sure on the cable. The only caveat to the electrical is the Oregon statute, municipal electric district or utilities are not that common, there's only 12 of them in the state. And by Oregon statute, the council is given the exclusive right to set the rates. So I'm not sure that a charter amendment can override Oregon statute. That might be something
I can look into that.
look at as part of the research. On the other part of it, I would have no idea on the cable TV or whatever, but I think on the electrical, I think it's good.
From the hip, I would think that, the charter can offer more protections to people than statute, but it can't offer fewer protections.
Okay.
So does council want to go in any particular direction on this? Lance?
It's not really clear to me. I'd like someone to articulate what this agenda item is about. We've talked about electrical rates, we've talked about HBO rates. Is that really all we're talking about? And therefore we're talking about raising the rates for HBO and raising the rates for electricity? Or is it more general? I mean, there wasn't really information in the packet other than what it says right there on
And I already
item C,
apologized for
so.
that.
I would move
Who put this on the agenda?
to just table this
Question.
item until we have more clear understanding of what it is.
Okay, so it's tabled. Well, do we need to take a vote on tabling it? No?
And we'll table.
You can do
Yeah.
either.
Okay, I'll just table it. Okay, then we have, according to Tracy's memo, approve expenditure from electrical capital reserve of no more than $16,000 for number 2 primary conductor. And I don't know, I wasn't really clear. Do we need to make it so that I can sign that since the mayor's gone?
I think as long as you're acting in his stead, you're fine.
Okay.
I would move to approve the spending of, it says no less than, I think what the intention was no more than.
Right.
No more than $16,000 to purchase number 2 primary underground conductor. And also that it be purchased from the capital reserve or system upgrade fund.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Kevin Benson, seconded by Don Haight. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. On to mayor and councilor comments. Don?
Okay, I was gonna, at this period, I was gonna thank the fire department for the work they did, and I did hear that they were out on the freeway until 3 o'clock this morning, so it was a long night for a lot of those folks. And another thing, our last meeting, we had several of the fire reserve that met with us, and they expressed their concern on the maintenance on their equipment. And I went over and looked at the ambulance that's been leaking for quite some time, and I'm also concerned. And then hearing the chief today, I would strongly recommend that we try to get a workshop together and meet with a selected group from the fire department. And I would like to go over the maintenance programs that they have in place and be sure that everything is in place and anything we can do to help, and look at some of the other problems that the chief discussed. And one other thing, when I ran for this position, I was very clear that I was concerned about the financial situation of this city, and I'm still concerned about the financial situation. We only talk about it in the negative effect. But I've got something that I would like read into today's minutes, and I'd ask Kathy to read it for me, please.
City of Cascade Locks. The following information is public record and can be confirmed at Cascade Lock City Hall. Information source, annual financial report for year ending June 30th, 2010, August A, $923,642 sewer debt. B, $450,000. This is $450,000.
Supposed to be a dot there,
Okay.
450,000.
Loan to EMS, fire station resolution 1153, November 2008. $150,000 loan to EMS, fire station resolution 1158, December 2008. $24,280 loan to EMS, fire truck resolution 1175, June 2009. $125,000 loan to EMS, fire station resolution 1177, June 2009. EMS has a negative fund balance of $32,128. This does not reflect an estimated end of year negative balance of $60,000. Ambulance billing were not always submitted to Springfield on a timely basis. Delays of several months between times the charge being incurred to time bills are submitted. The city has several instances of non-compliance with Oregon local budget law. Note, no attempt to repay even interest on B&D until this budget year. Information source 2010-2011 budget worksheet. A, general fund beginning balance for year 0809, $221,970.73. For year 0910, $157,817. For year 1011, $110,000. The fund is declining. To date, the city has invested a total of $703,500 in grant funds for the firehouse, plus $300,000 from the sale of McCoy property. This does not include other funds for various equipment and material. Note, this does not include funds from items B, C, and D loans shown above. So fire station. Information source, FEMA RFP 2009 and FEMA contract. Cascade Locks Fire Chief applied for a new radio communication grant for the county. B, the grant application was submitted by the Cascade Locks Fire Chief prior to advising the city of Cascade Locks Council or the 911 office. C, the total grant amount is $482,760 with matching fund of $54,902. The city of Cascade Locks is fully responsible for this project. D, the contract states that there will be monthly reports until the project is complete. To date, the city of Cascade Locks, city council, or the River 911 office have not received these reports. E, to date, the 911 office and River have not submitted a matching fund payment of $38,800. F, if the 911 office does not pay their matching fund, the city of Cascade Locks will be responsible for this payment. This payment is overdue. The 911 office is waiting for information regarding the long-term cost of operating and maintaining this project and other related reports and information. G, the fire chief of Cascade Locks, the only paid person on the city's fire department, spent many hours working on a grant that should have been the responsibility of the 911 dispatch office for River County, who is the largest beneficiary of the project. There is no record of how much time the Cascade Locks fire chief was removed from his Cascade Locks city duties to oversee this project, but it has been stated that he did not always have time to complete all his duties in Cascade Locks without working overtime. Example, late on submitting ambulance billings. At one point, billings were 6 to 7 months late. H, the city of Cascade Locks is fully responsible for this project as the city fire chief applied for the FEMA grant, accepting the grant funds and taking full responsibility, not Cody County. Per the city of Cascade Locks fire chief, he is the only person that is authorized to contact the project contractor. Per the fire chief, not even the mayor of Cascade Locks can contact the contractor to obtain an update on the project. Reference email to the mayor, Cascade Locks, from Jeff Pritchard, Fire Chief, Cascade Locks, dated March 2nd, 2011. I, if there are site deficiencies, Cascade Locks would be responsible for addressing the deficiencies and all associated costs. Information source, resolution number 1066 EMS 2005-2020 strategic plan. resolution number 1066, the city of Cascade Locks should now have 3 full-time firefighters / paramedics, plus a full-time fire chief. This is the plan without the casino being constructed. This would add at least $180,000 in labor costs to a department that is presently operating in the red. Note, this resolution is still in effect. Information source, Delcar Payne Automotive Repair, Inc., Hood River. A, the Dodge Durango Fire Department command unit was just returned from the above mentioned repair shop. The 4th engine was just installed in this unit per the repair shop. The engines were completely sludged up and showed signs of lack of lubrication. This is a sign of very poor maintenance. B, was any member of the council aware that this unit has gone through 4 engines? C, the fire chief was advised to return the unit after 500 miles to have break-in oil changed. Unit was never returned for any of the engines. Cascade Locks check number 1378, S&J Engines Incorporated, total $745. Invoice number 9764, Del Carpine for $5,485.26. Invoice number 12011, Del Carpine, $1,259.07. Invoice number 6565, Del Carpine, $930.98. Invoice number 8262, Del Carpine, $288.57. Invoice number 9972, Del Carpine, $491.78. Invoice number 8157, Del Carpine, $770.80. Invoice number 11809, Del Carpine, $941.99. Above costs relate to the Dodge Durango. These are only costs billed by Del Carpine and S&J. Submitted by Don R. Hayes, citizen, Cascade Lodge, July 25th, 2000.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments?
Well, I would just say we just had obviously we just had a really nice weekend down here, and the U.S. Nationals were here for lasers. Had lots of folks in the town with that, and again, probably the biggest thing though on it is the advertising that you get from it. It was the national championship, so that goes out to lots of publications and a lot of people reporting on that. And same thing, everything that those people talked about our place is this is as well we know a beautiful place to be and a great place to sail. So had another good weekend, a great weekend down here for sailing, even though we didn't supply them with the gorge winds. They like sailing here because it's a huge challenge for big wind sailing. They only got maybe one day of big winds, but they got their event in, had a great time, and everybody had a good time, went well. I also wanted to thank Eva and the mayor and the fire department staff for getting together and starting some good dialogue there to hopefully head us down the right direction in that department. So I appreciate the effort of those people to help move us along.
Well, first of all, I do agree with Tom. It was a great weekend in Cascade Locks. I'm glad that so many people got to enjoy it. Hope everybody has a chance to be outside and do a hike, sailing, whatever it might be. And I also enjoyed that thunderstorm last night too. We don't get those very often, so my dogs really like that. Sorry, Kathy, they woke you up. And I also wanted to say, like Don, I'd like to say thanks to the crew that responded to just horrible accident on I-84. yesterday, I was caught in the traffic of that, and the whole time I just kept thinking about our volunteers and you know, what they were doing, to put themselves in harm's way to protect people, and really do appreciate that. And as well as all the calls they've been responding to, I just wanted to make it clear, I do feel that our council owes them an apology for claiming that they weren't responding to calls. I certainly can't speak for the whole council, but I do want to say that I feel we do owe them an apology for that, because it's pretty clear that they are responding. It's the middle of fire season, and our fire department is in a mess. I believe that it's great to be having conversations, but it's time for this council to take action. We've heard several meetings in a row now from the volunteers. Something that's probably self-evident before we heard from them, this town needs a paramedic. We need to take action on that. That's one of the biggest problems facing fire and EMS department, and right now we really are operating without that kind of emergency protection. Along with that, the department is not able to do their billing. That's an issue that needs to be addressed. It's great that our volunteers are responding to calls, and like I said, we thank them for that, but our budget is based on being able to bill for those calls so that we can recoup the costs of going on those calls, and we don't have anything in place to handle that billing. We need to take action on that. A little over a week ago, our council voted on a policy that we would no longer call our volunteers, that our first call would go out to the Hood River Fire Department. And that has not been changed, although I'm not sure why our volunteers are getting those calls. But certainly, we should change that policy. And as Don mentioned, there's some issues with maintenance of our vehicles. When you run a volunteer fire department, it's probably a good idea to have someone, or at least a plan in place for maintaining the vehicles. And again, I think we need to take action on those things, because that's, as we heard tonight from Jess Surfing, you know, we could lose all our warranties if we don't have adequate maintenance. And among other things that I haven't mentioned, it's a mess. We do have a solution to this mess, and I believe we can take action. We had a volunteer application that would bring us a paramedic, a volunteer paramedic. That needs to be on our next agenda. We can take action in reversing our policy of calling Hood River first. So that, because, you know, we got a bill from Hood River saying their administrative costs and so on, as well as a letter from their fire chief saying that they're going to continue sending us bills when they respond to calls. Part of that is because we don't have a paramedic. So we certainly need to reverse our policy that we made a week ago Friday. And then the other option we have is to use the money that's left in our fire department budget to hire a consultant, and number one task is going to have to be doing the billing, someone who's familiar with the billing, familiar with this department and our practices. And yeah, it might take some negotiation, but it's conceivable that we could get that done. And we need to take action on those things. And I'd like to ask for, you know, if Tiffany could ask for a consensus that we have those on our next agenda at the very least, to consider those issues. Otherwise, we're going another month with the same mess and no action taken to solve it. So at least let's get those on the agenda. Even if you're not going to support them, let's get them on the agenda so we can talk about them and potentially take that action.
I was going to say that I apologize because you had requested the last time at the council meeting to have something of that nature on, and it got lost in the translation with the mayor going on vacation and stuff. a lot of stuff is going on behind the scenes, and, I think that I would prefer to leave it up to the mayor to decide what needs to be on the agenda. He's fully aware that all of these things need to be dealt with. But you can ask for a consensus.
Yeah, if four council members, actually, I think it's 3 council members has to have something on the agenda, then it can go, then it has to go on the agenda. That's what I'm asking for.
Do you think it would help? I would like to meet with the council and the firemen. Could we do it? Do you think it would work to do it in a workshop first, to openly discuss things and just get aimed where we should go?
I'm not close to that idea, if that's the best we can do.
Well,
I feel like we have the ideas on the table already. We've heard from them already. And as I said, I think there's a couple solutions to our problems staring us in the face. I think it's time to take action, which, as you know, you can't do during a workshop session.
Well, I think
I think you can have a workshop and then, and then an action.
well, that's what I
agenda.
meant. I know you can't make a decision, but I would like to have, at least have them pick a group to be with us. How many, 3, 4, 5, it doesn't matter to me. But I've got lots of questions about the maintenance, just of what I've seen. And it's serious, and it doesn't happen this last 6 months. To me, it's pretty serious.
Kevin?
Is there a motion on the floor?
Is there?
I don't think you do motions during comment, but you can ask for a consensus to have an item on the agenda, and that's what I've asked for.
I would, if I can say, I would prefer a workshop with the council and the volunteers to get some things worked out. That's my choice. Before.
So don't take action at the next meeting.
It could be tomorrow, it could be in 3 days. It's whenever we can get it done. I would like that before the council meeting. That's just my opinion. Because I've got questions to ask them before we go that next step.
You're talking about before the 8th. The 8th.
We can do it before the next council meeting. I've got a lot of questions that I would like to know more before we discuss it with the council. That's only my opinion. That would be my vote.
Kevin, do you have anything
No.
to add to this?
No.
Tom?
Well, I'm good with the workshop. I think we do need to define information, and that's what we need to continue to do on it, is working towards it.
So I think the appropriate thing is for you to declare that there is no consensus to have those items on the agenda.
So be it.
So is that your declaration?
There's nothing to declare in a council comment. We're just
There's
making
no,
comments.
so you're not gonna declare a consensus to have that?
There's no motion, there's nothing, there's no
Yeah, I just asked for a
consensus. Okay,
consensus.
there's no consensus. There you go.
So then I just wanted to finish my comment by saying, we will be waiting another month at this point then, before we take action. Within that month, our mutual aid agreements will expire. So even if we have a fire and our volunteers respond, they won't have the ability to call for help from the river. And I think that's too bad. Thanks.
And I'm gonna say that I think that this is an ever-changing, quickly changing, situation, and we could quite possibly have a meeting before that. I don't know. I don't really wanna tie the hands of anybody to any form. Kevin Hedges?
We just heard from Assistant Chief Zerfing, who stated he was willing to fill the role of contact person for the city of Cascade Locks, which was the major concern expressed in the letter from the chiefs in Hood River. So actually, we will be able to meet our responsibilities and our requirements to receive mutual aid according to the information we were given tonight. Also, the fact that we don't have a consensus to put this on the agenda doesn't mean the person responsible for preparing the agenda isn't going to put it on there. It is what it is. Certainly the mayor has the option to add this to the agenda without a consensus.
And we will continue to get help from Hood River. Hood River, just as our, you know, if it's not mutual aid, then it's in the same process it is here where the charge should come down. And the charges haven't been the entire charge, I believe, was around $1,400. And I think that was three different events is what happened in that. So they're still there, and they're there as available, just like even in mutual aid, they're only there as available. So even if the mutual aid doesn't go through, Hood River is prepared to come down with some costs to help out. So we are covered. And we do have help from other departments that come in on it.
And we seem to.
But I think that I think we're gonna be able to, you know, I think we're working towards meeting those mutual aid goals. That's what we're gonna be doing.
We seem to manage all right when Jeff only worked normally 40 hours a week. There's several other hours in 24 hours, and we seem to manage, so I think it can work it out.
I would move to move on to the next agenda item.
Staff notes. Can I ask, Marion, can you give a report on how the billing system is going? I know it's kind of on the spot, or do you want to wait until the next?
Should I wait till, I mean, I have no preparation, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Televised workshop, I meant to table that. I've talked to Tracy earlier, and he's got some things in the works, so we'll wait until we can get some more information from him on that. That being said, we need to go into executive session for ORS 192-660, 2H legal counsel, and 2A employment of public officers, employees, and agents. And I don't know that we're making any decisions, so we won't be coming back on the air. Okay, we'll take a 10-minute break while she's breaking